Hey, you. Yeah, you. I'm Dozer of the Such Good Shoot podcast, and I just want to tell you how excited we are to be part of the Johners Podcasting Network. It is home to many great wrestling podcasts, such as Wrestling with Johners, Turnbuckle Arms Podcast, Rope Break, our good buddy Whaddya Say with DDJ, The Call Up, and many more. If you want just some of the best wrestling podcast action, make sure you just go to WrestlingWithJohners.com and check everything out. So till next time, I've been Dozer. This has been Such Good Shoot, intoxicatingly entertaining.
The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Attention wrestling fans. You're now about to listen to the band coming down the aisle from the main streets of South Elgin, Illinois, with a microphone in his hand and questions on his mind. This is Whaddya Say with DDJ.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 52 of Whaddya Say with DDJ. As always, I'm your host, DDJ. This is going to be a continuation from the best of Whaddya Say with DDJ, the Johners area. Last week was part one, and you heard clips of my interviews from such superstars as Alan Funk, CCW owner John Bullard, as well as CCW ring announcer Greg Hansen and Irish Extreme Ronnie Clodfelter. And on this week's episode, it's going to be part two. You're going to be hearing from such superstars as Kid Romeo, Jace Thorn, Silas Young, Chicago wrestling legend Vic Capri, and the Manimal Chip Walker. So grab your drink, grab your snack, get comfy, kick back and relax, and enjoy episode 52 of Whaddya Say with DDJ. And the best of Whaddya Say with DDJ, the Johners era, part two.
This is P.L. Myers, a shot to the top, pro wrestling's manager extraordinaire. And there's only one thing you should be watching, one thing you should be listening to, and that's the man himself, Whaddya Say with DDJ.
So
And Bruiser Brody, I met the person who killed him. The Invaders. It was one of the Invaders, and I got to meet him and work with him.
Now, did you know that he had already committed the crime, or by the time when you did meet him and work with him?
Oh yeah. This is way. Yeah, when Brody got killed, I was still little. When I went over there, I'm semi younger, and the Invaders kind of older. Now he's really old.
Mm-hmm. So did you get a chance to watch that Dark Side of the Ring special that they did on Bruiser Brody, the Bruiser Brody story?
I caught bits and pieces of that one. Yes.
Okay. And what did you think of it?
You're in an island, and you're the American and stuff like that. I mean, come on, things on an island. It's not like in the States and stuff like that. Right. Anything in an island is different.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. It's different.
All right. Well, we can definitely
everything's different.
Gotcha. So when you moved to the States and started watching like the NWA and WWE, you mentioned, like Flair and DiBiase. Like, who were some of your favorites when you started watching like the American wrestling?
I like JYD. I like the Road Warriors.
Yes, I love them.
The Ultimate Warrior. Yes, I like the guys who look the part, look the role.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Now is kind of changed somewhat. Have a lot of talent, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but that you're looking at the TV and sure they can do a lot of tricks. And to me, wrestling, it's not all about the tricks. But you look at it like, man, anybody could be at home like, hey, I can do that. So that's, to me, it's taking a little bit of the wrestling and stuff like NXT. Everybody looks like everybody's, they're so tiny, and those are the cruiserweights. So you got to have the right mixture. But that for me, that whole thing, everybody's so tiny like that it takes a little bit of the credibility because, you know, it's always been a big man sport. You just got to mix it right, and your little guys got to look, you know, like they can hold their own.
Right, I got you.
Not just do a fancy move, okay, and I gotta sell it for you, or maybe partially sell it for you.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this: how old were you when you decided that professional wrestling is something you wanted to do?
I think I was like 28, going on 29.
Okay. And
I was a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer. If I was on the scene, you know, 3, 4, 5 years later, I think the outcome would have been different of my whole career and stuff like that, for sure. Just the timing for me and everything as WCW closed, as I am like going like this, it closes, then all of a sudden I go to WWE. It's like, right. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Look at the crowd. To me, when the crowd says it all, look at the response, look at everything, and show you they can make and break anybody. But Kid Romeo was all me. It was my name, my idea, my style. I danced in the ring. I started with the glow sticks. That was all me. They let me do whatever I want. In pro wrestling, where especially now, how often does that happen? Not often.
Yeah, especially in the WWE.
Somebody come in, and I didn't have a pedigree of I'm an ex-football player or ex that like that, because when you got those pedigrees, they open the doors and the world's to you. I had to kind of work for it and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I hear you. So how did you discover the power plant as the place to go train? Was it just from watching WCW?
I was before this is no secret. I used to be a Chippendale male dancer.
Okay.
So I was actually coming back from Japan and Greece and Athens, and my dancing name was Romeo. So when I got into the wrestling thing, Jody Hamilton, one of the original assassins, told me, what do you call it? He goes, just pick something that you are within you. And I'm like, okay, this is who I am. So then I just threw the kid in there, put a little attitude on it and stuff. And boom, there you go. Kid Romeo was born. Then I started doing the glow sticks on the Saturday night. They liked everything, but my production, they always never gave me a good thing, how it was supposed to be. How I had it here, but the production just on the Saturday night show couldn't get their shit right.
Yeah. So one of the things
that was for the Saturday night, and then then they want, once they saw me at everything, they switched it, and between me and Jimmy, they wanted to do the Kid Romeo, and they wanted to give it like a heel Ricky Martin. Because if you remember, my song was like literally a remake. Hey, Romeo. And now the WWE channel fucking changed it. I went to see my match and I was like, that's not what I walked out. For some reason, they went and changed it. But Jimmy Hart's the one that did all the songs in WCW. He's the one that did everybody's entrance stuff. So he redid it. So I guess, the copyrights and stuff like that. But I guess WWE thought something different and they changed my song.
Gotcha. So one of the things I did while doing a little bit of research that you did when you were on Saturday night is you actually had a series of matches against someone who I just recently interviewed for my show, Alan Funk. And how was it working with Alan?
Alan, it was fun working with him, man. We used to wail on each other, man. I was stiff. I like to work stiff. I didn't like to work too light and stuff because I didn't want to, I didn't want myself looking hokey.
Right.
Most of the time. So I like they said, I laid my shit in. I remember I clotheslined Shane Helms a couple of times. After we won the championship, I gave him a short arm clothesline. And when I looked down, his braces were all, all bloody, and his eyes were like literally rolling back. And I picked him up, and I go, "I'm sorry, bro." And I just pushed him up and give it to him again, like even harder. And then he rolled out, and I got to the back, and this was in Gainesville. Everywhere was like, "Damn, dude." Finley goes, "Romeo, don't change a thing. I love it."
That's awesome.
Finley was very, very snug. He was solid.
Oh yeah, I see many Finley matches in WCW.
he's a stiffmeister, and that's the way I like it. And then you go to Japan. Oh, if you want to get into that in a couple minutes, that's a whole different story. Real quick, my first match over there, they gave me a snapmare. That bitch kicked me in the back. My hair stood up all the way down to my boots. So I just fell back, and then that bitch tried to pick me up again. I was like, I just dead-assed him. And then when I got up, I fucking lit his ass up, because if you don't fight back, they'll eat you up. You have to gain that respect. You have to gain the respect. No complaints. You can't come out of the ring saying, hey, what shit, man, that was, thank you very much, thank you. That's it.
So yeah, so since you brought it up, let's get right into it. So you had a couple of matches on back in early 2000 on in WCW, and then like after after a little bit of a stint there, then they did send you over to New Japan to kind of further hone your skills. So you mentioned about your first match over there, with the snapmare and the kind of standing up for yourself, so to speak. What was your time like in Japan?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. The fans, I mean, the fans are great here, but the fans they live, breathe, and eat it. They literally follow you because it's not like over here. It's on tours. You go, like, some tours are 2 weeks, some are 3 weeks, and you travel in the bus like that, and then you take like a little break, and then you go again. So these people follow you from city to city to city to city to city, and just banging on the on the bus. And over there, I used to be with Scott Norton.
Yes,
Scott Norton was like God over there at that time. He was like bigger than Hulk Hogan over there.
Oh yeah.
And he was my buddy, and he was my workout partner. And he wake me up every day at fucking 6 o'clock. Romeo, you ready to go eat? I'm like, I guess. We go eat, go to the gym, do our stuff. I come back, sleep a little bit on the bus, and then do it again. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun and stuff. And people just bum rush you on the street. Everybody has autograph pads. It's just a Japanese thing. I think they have everything that they can stuff something to autograph. They have it. I've seen them come out with stuff out of their ass.
So what would you say was the most odd or peculiar thing that you signed? Is there anything like really out there?
Tits and ass.
Okay, all right. That's definitely odd and peculiar. Was that a regular thing over there in Japan?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The girls wanted that. Yeah, wow. They almost nothing really too peculiar. They always have the autograph boards.
Right.
It's like if they're like this, they'll like it's an autograph board, and you go to shops and stuff like that. Shops have like they love collecting autographs, especially from guy jeans. If you're a guy gene, you're over with the fans.
Wow. So
they love anything from America.
Oh yeah, I it's one of the things I love about like New Japan and stuff are the crowds there. It's just you can just tell they
the respect.
Exactly, that was the word I was going to use.
That they have for the business and for the people, and the punishment that we put our bodies through to entertain the people. They really, really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
This is Rockstar Johnny Nye, and you're listening to Whaddya Say with DDJ. Make sure you catch the newest episode featuring yours truly. What other reason could you possibly need to tune in outside of the fact that I'm on it? I mean, come on, people. And for those of you who don't tune in, be gone.
And what was it like training down in OVW?
Oh man, it was awesome. At the time, Danny Davis still owned it. It was before Al Snow came in and bought. And my trainer at the time was Matt Capitelli, God rest his soul.
Yes,
and,
very familiar with him.
Yes, just a genuinely great human being, and someone that I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked to with him, but he made a huge impact on me, and he really taught me so much, not just about the wrestling business, but about life in general and how to face adversity and just keep fighting no matter, what the circumstances look like.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's just, for those of you who don't know, Matt Capitelli. I believe he was runner-up the third season of Tough Enough that he was one of the winners, correct? Along with John Morrison.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Yeah,
they had 2 winners that season.
Yes, and unfortunately, he passed away a number of years ago due to brain cancer. I believe it was brain cancer, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So yeah, just the story you told about him. I've heard a lot of people say that about him. So yeah, it's definitely just a truly tragic story to think what could have been had he not gotten sick.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard stories and rumors about how he was originally supposed to be brought up with the Miz in a tag team. And, the thought of, you see how charismatic the Miz is and how far he's come in his career. And Matt was just as special, man. And I feel like they could have really been a special team. And, everything in the world works out the way, God plans it to, and it's a shame sometimes, and it's hard to understand sometimes, but it is the way it is, man.
I know that all too well. So after your time in OVW, where did you go after that?
So after OVW, I spent a couple weeks in Rip Rogers' class. I wasn't able to afford to make the drive down there as much because I was still in college at the time. So I just really started taking bookings. My original tag team partner, Dalton Moss, and I, we were booked right out of the gate by a promotion. I don't think they're known as this anymore, but at the time they were Bandit Wrestling out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And we were booked literally the night after our showcase, after we finished training, and they asked us to come down for a tag tournament. They said, we can't guarantee you a spot, but if there is one, we'll put you on there. Well, when we got down there, just the names that we were, surrounded by, we had guys like literally the first guy I shook hands with when I walked in was MJF.
Oh, wow.
Myron Reed was on that show. Daniel Eads was on that show. Like, just so many huge names. And he and I, we did pretty well for, starting out and everything, but man, we were like way out of our league. We had no business being there. And they ended up putting us in a scramble match because there were so many teams down there. Scramble match was not something to write home about, but it was a really cool experience to share a locker room. And Dave and Jake Christ were on the show. There was just huge independent names all over the place, and it was really an impressive show to be listed on. But we had no business being there at that time. But it was a rude awakening, and it opened our eyes. So.
Gotcha. So you mentioned MJF, so I gotta ask. Was he as big of a jerk back then as he is now?
Brother, he lives the gimmick.
That's what I hear.
He lives the gimmick, man.
That's awesome.
He was fun to be around though, and it's a cool experience to think that shared a locker room with him, and you see how far he's gone, and it's really impressive. So.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the biggest jerk in the world, but there's no denying he's like uber talented.
Oh man, and at such a young age, man, it's very impressive.
Yeah, very. All right, so going on from there, when did you start what were some of the organizations that you started working for once your training was done, and you found yourself kind of starting to okay, this is a place where I can kind of see myself, coming, to work, every week or every month, depending on when they ran shows?
Yeah, I started out, in the Kentucky area. I worked a couple of smaller shows down there. Then my biggest thing was I want to get as many places as I can. So, I ended up working in 8 different states in the 4 years that I was active. And, I worked for companies like Infinite Pro Wrestling, WTF, Wrestling Theology Fellowship. I worked with KZW, NEW. Multiple. I think I have a list of I think it was 25 different promotions that I worked for. And really the ones that I stuck with the longest were KZW when I was first cutting my teeth. And then it turned into Wrestling Theology as well as NEW. I was working for those guys quite a bit. And, Chicagoland was another one that really stepped up there towards the end and started to give me a shot as well. So,
Yeah, we'll obviously get into Chicagoland a little bit later here as we kind of get on in the interview. But you mentioned WTF Wrestling Theology. Was it Fellowship or Federation?
Fellowship.
Fellowship. So obviously, you know, those that, you know, may not be of a religious background, such as myself and stuff. What is that? Obviously, something like a Wrestling Theology Fellowship is probably something different than your traditional wrestling organization. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still, you know, a basic wrestling show. Obviously, it's PG. You know, there's not going to be any, you know, cursing or, color or anything like that in the show. But, and then like in the intermission, they do have a message where, you know, someone comes out and, you know, essentially gives a message, you know, about something to do with scripture, the Bible, you know, maybe their past experience or what's on their heart at that time. And it can be anyone from a wrestler or somebody that's working for the promotion, or even the booker. Just there's multiple people that have given the message.
Gotcha. And the NEW now, is that the NEW that's kind of pretty well known in like the Northeast, or is this a different NEW?
This is the NEW in Indiana. I can't, God forgive me, I cannot remember the name of the town that they run in.
Oh, okay, no problem.
but yeah, they run out of Indiana. That's where I spent the majority of my career, was in the Indiana area.
Now, was there anybody like that you mentioned a little bit earlier with, like, you know, when you were there with MJF, the Christ brothers, amongst others and stuff, like during your time, like touring the independents, did you come across anybody, work with anybody, or have any interactions with anybody that people might know today? Like if they turn on, like say Ring of Honor, Impact, AEW, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was in a battle royal early in my career with Road Warrior Animal, God rest his soul as well.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely. He was really cool. He was actually the first pro wrestler I ever met in my life back when I was like 10 years old.
Nice.
So the fact that it came full circle and I got to work with him in a battle royal was really, really special. And then I also interfered in a match that Carlito was in, and got to, you know, cause a little bit of a chaotic finish in that. So that was really cool too, because he was a guy I grew up watching as well.
This is Pro Wrestling's Last Real Man, and you're listening to What Do You Say with DDJ on the Johners Podcasting Network.
So doing a little bit of research, you know, in preparation for this interview, one of the things I found out back in 2011, you did an interview where you had revealed that prior to getting into wrestling, you were a heroin addict, and that the wrestling training is kind of what allowed you to, you know, overcome that addiction. What was it about the wrestling training, or what was the thing that allowed you to kick the habit?
You know, I think I was just at a point in my life where, you know, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I was kind of getting sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. Mm-hmm. And I knew I needed a change for my life, you know. And like I said before, I'd went and seen my buddy, my buddy Tom have his first match. And, you know, I was kind of sitting there watching it. And I thought, you know, look at Tom, he's doing a good job. You're way more of an athlete than he is. And, you know, wrestling's something you've always loved. Maybe this is something you can do with your life. You know, I think for a lot of people, maybe with addiction problems, a big thing that really might help them is finding something they're passionate about, you know? Mm-hmm. So I kind of found a better way for my life, and something that, you know, gave me a drive and, you know, gives you something to do. You have to have goals in life, you know? So I think that was the big thing for me. Was I was to a point where I wanted to change, and that change presented itself, and I really, you know, latched onto it.
Awesome. And then also too, I noticed that I've done doing the research that, you know, through, you know, kicking your addiction, you know, getting into wrestling, you met your wife, and, you know, and I know you guys have you have a child together. So, I mean, it's a really inspiring story, you know, and it was fascinating to see that, you know, because that gives me that much more respect for you, because you did something that not a lot of people can do, and that's kicking that addiction. So besides is there any other advice other than, you know, finding something you're passionate about that you could give someone who's maybe going through a similar, you know, addiction issue, be it to heroin or just something other in life? Like, what would be the best piece of advice you could give them, in addition to the finding something you're passionate about?
I mean, I think that's really about it, to be honest with you. It's, I know addiction's a tough thing. It's, it kind of robs you of your soul, and, it makes you a different person. And, if you're looking for something, if you're looking to make some changes, try and find something that you feel is worth changing for. Try and find something that, as you do that, you realize that there's a lot of things worth changing for. But if you can find that one thing that'll help pull you out of it, that's even better. But there's definitely, it's just something you got to try and fight and get past, I guess. It's hard to give a good piece of advice, just because, I mean, it's a tough thing to deal with.
It is, and just again, many props to you for being able to, to beat your addiction and go on to do what you've done in the business. So once you got done with like your training and stuff, I noticed you did some work with, spent some time with the WWE, most specifically OVW, back when OVW was affiliated with the WWE. What was your time like down there?
So I had done a handful of dark matches. I had knew Ken Anderson or Ken Kennedy, who was working there at the time. I had, like I said, I did some dark matches and got some good responses about them. And Ken, I had ran into Ken at one of the tapings, and he had actually happened to be talking to Johnny Ace, and he had told Johnny, this is Silas, he's really good. You guys should give him a look. So then Johnny gave me his number, and they set it up where I went down to OVW for a week, and I trained there, and I did the house show loops. And I actually had ended up getting offered a contract like maybe a few days before Christmas that year. And then after the first of the year, started going through the hiring process. And then I saw one day online that WWE had ceased to have a developmental program with OVW. And then I got a call the day after that said they weren't putting the contract through. So, I mean, I had the little bit of experience, but I was never under contract with them or anything like that. But I mean, it was great. It was great to be able to, go down there and be in a system where you're working on your passion every day, that you're working to get better, whether it be stuff in the ring or promos or watching tape. It's a great thing to get the opportunity to be a part of.
Awesome. And was there one thing in particular that you took from your time with, WWE/OVW that you still apply to, your career now? Was like one particular thing that you took away most from your time?
I think it would be that you should try and be different. That, sometimes in wrestling, we'll see these trends, right? A lot of the people will latch onto the trends, and what I picked up was that you should always try and be different. Like, if everybody's going to the right, I'm going to try and go to the left.
Gotcha.
Because that's what makes you stick out.
That's really good. Okay, so how did now? So basically, after your time with WWE and OVW, Ring of Honor kind of was next on your list there. How did that come about?
So I had actually worked for Ring of Honor before that. I had did a handful of shows for them at the end when Gabe Sapolsky was booking, and then Gabe got fired. And they brought in, I believe it was Adam Pearce after that, and I didn't do as much. I had still done I didn't really do much with Pierce. And then I think like maybe in 2009, 2010, I had done some TV tapings for a while, but there wasn't really much going on. I didn't really have any ideas of my own that I could pitch. And then I had gotten the opportunity to do some stuff with Dragon Gate and Evolve. So I had started doing some stuff with them. And then that, I guess, happened for a couple of years. And then right around 2012, maybe 2011, I had started working. Michael Elgin started coming into AAW down in Chicago. And he had said, "Hey, have you ever talked to Ring of Honor?" And I had told him a couple of times, I'm doing stuff with Dragon Gate and Evolve, and I know they're not really using the same talent. And then I had stopped working for Dragon Gate and Evolve, and I had just said something to Elgin about it. And I said, "Hey, if you want to put in a word for me." And he said, "Yeah, definitely." And it happened that it just so happened that a couple weeks later, Ring of Honor was going to be having a show in Milwaukee. So I had gotten contacted and asked if I wanted to do that show, which I was, of course, happy to do it. Had a really good match with Michael Elgin, which then gave them the idea to use me for the Top Prospect tournament a few months later.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of the Top Prospect tournament, like how would you explain it to someone who's new to Ring of Honor?
The Top Prospect tournament is basically something that they try and do every year. I think, with COVID and stuff this past year, we didn't do it, or this year. But basically the Top Prospect tournament is where Ring of Honor goes out and they basically grab 8 guys that are, really making a name for themselves on the independent circuit or maybe even in other countries. Just young talent that's making a name for themselves, and they basically bring them in and do like a tournament style thing. And typically the guy who ends up winning the tournament will get a contract and probably a title shot as well.
Awesome. So obviously, again, as referenced in my introduction to you, for you earlier at the beginning of the show and stuff, you're known as wrestling's last real man. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with the last real man gimmick.
All right. So, I had said before about, doing the Top Prospect tournament thing. So maybe about a year before that, I kind of thought, maybe I needed to do something to let the Silas Young character evolve a little bit. For years, Silas Young was just a guy with long hair and a beard, and everybody was like, oh, he's a really good wrestler and puts on really good matches. And I think I cut pretty good promos too. So I had started thinking, and I had kind of, this was around the time when terms like metrosexual were a new term, when like skinny jeans were kind of a new thing, when we started hearing about guys like getting pedicures and getting their eyebrows waxed and things like that. And I kind of had this idea that there needs to be a character that's like a man's man, so to speak. And growing up, I grew up with 5 older brothers. My dad was like a fire chief, and he was like a real hard ass dude. Like didn't take crap from anybody, And my dad had slick back hair and a mustache, so I kind of got this idea for the last real man thing, and I kind of dabbled with it a very little bit with Dragon Gate, but it was kind of a thing that I was just doing a little bit here and there. And then I got the opportunity with the Top Prospect tournament thing, and that's when I really decided to kick it into full gear, because I looked at Ring of Honor and I thought, what's Ring of Honor known for? They're known for having these guys that are really good athletes and really good wrestlers, right? Like it's what the company's built on. But so I kind of thought to myself, like I said earlier, when everybody's going right, I try to go left. I kind of thought, well, I know I'm a really good wrestler and I can hang with these guys, but what's something I can do to make myself stand out a little bit? Ring of Honor does have a TV show, so it's always good to have characters. So that's when I really decided to go full forward with the last real man thing. It was, it was something to give another layer to my character. It's something to give the people an idea of who you are, love it or hate it. But at least it gives you an identity. So that was really the time that I really went full forward with it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pro Wrestling Sensation all day. Marsha Rocket, and you are listening to Whaddya Say with DDJ all day.
Now, when you had your first match 3 months in, like you said, how most of the guys that have been there, a year or two were in battle royals and stuff. When you kind of got in there, after 3 months and had a match at, like you said, one of the biggest shows that was put on in the Chicagoland area, Battle of the Belts, was there any resentment from the other guys in the locker room towards you?
Nobody voiced it to my face, but I always felt like I hadn't paid my dues. It's funny, because about a week or so ago at a Chicagoland championship, Ripper Manson was there, and we were telling stories about training and everything back when I was coming up and how things used to be. And he pulled me aside the one day and was like, how come when we're doing these matches and stuff in the ring, there's no offense from you? You're just taking a beating. And I was like, well, I haven't paid my dues. So I know people that have been doing this for a lot longer than me, and I know people are upset, but so I just let them beat the crap out of me so I can pay my dues during practice. And he went, oh, okay. Grabbed me, threw me in the ring, called Willie the Bomb, Mike Anthony and Steve Boz in the ring. And I did a fire drill, and it was just suplexes and power bombs for about 15 minutes. And I just took one from each of them over and over again. And then afterwards, he was like, okay, you paid your dues. That's it. No more bullshit. And I was just like, oh, if you say so, you got it, sir. So he was one of Mike Carey, Skulls Manson's tag team partners. So for him to kind of take me under the wing after Mike had to stop because of lower back problems, it was great, you know. And like I said, we talked for like 3 hours after the show and just about reminiscing about the old days. And it was just great, just the things we used to do and stuff like that.
Yeah, so one of the things I was doing a little bit of research earlier today in preparation for this, and I know one of the trainers I saw that you trained under was Christopher Daniels. What was he like?
A lot of people put down that Christopher Daniels trained me. He was actually gone from Windy City by the time I got there.
Oh, okay.
So it was really Mike Gratchner, Sam DeCero, Steve Boz, and Mike Anthony. But Daniels had just come back from a tour of Japan with Michinoku. And he was at the studio and at the training center, and he had a Japanese magazine. I was flipping through it, and I'm like, oh my God, you wrestled Jinsei Shinzaki.
Wow.
And he just looked at me and he goes, you didn't call him Hakushi. No, it's Jinsei Shinzaki. Tags with Hayabusa all the time, this and that. And we started talking, and so then we started rolling around in the ring, and because of that, we just kind of clicked. And he's the one that got me. I give him all the credit because he's the one that got me out of Windy City and really got my name out there. One of the guys got hurt for the ECWA Super 8 for 2000, and he's like, told Jim Kettner about you, send him your stuff. And so I did. And Jim invited me to be part of the Super 8 that year. And back then you had Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler. They were all the one editor, but they also had, after had gone over to WOW magazine, World of Wrestling. They were there, and they did a little bio on everybody. They did the whole thing for the Super Cards shows, and that was one of the big shows that they were doing. So right off the bat, as soon as I left Windy City, I had national exposure. And Kevin Kelly was there, and as soon as my match was over, he asked me for a tape and a photo to take to bring us in, bring some of the guys in as extras. So Daniels really, he opened the doors for me. He didn't really train me, but I owe him a lot of gratitude for sticking his neck out and put his name on me and let me come out there. I put him over in the tournament, but it was really what got me national exposure. And then from there, Roland Alexander from APW contacted me for the King of the Indies. I went out there and I became friends with Modest and Donovan Morgan and those guys, and things just blew up from there. So it was one of those things without Daniels, I wouldn't have had that stuff.
Yeah. Daniels seems like he's a good guy. I've had people talk to me about him before. He's I've heard nothing but good from him and stuff. And actually he's going to be doing and I'll get a little bit of a cheap plug in here. He's going to be doing an autograph signing up by about 15 minutes from where I live here at a baseball card shop called Top Shelf Sports Cards in Elgin here on the 24th. So, if I'm going to stop planning on stopping by to see him, so I'll make sure that I share the story with him.
Yeah, I mean, anytime anybody asks me, I always have to put Daniels over for what he did for me when I first started. I mean, it was amazing that he did it for me, and like I said, it got me everywhere, and I made connections in other places because of him.
Right. So, and one of the connections that you mentioned was Kevin Kelly. And I wanted to ask you about, because I know at the time he was doing work for the WWF. And actually, I was one of the videos I stumbled across while doing research earlier today was a video of you competing in a match. I believe it was on WWF. I believe it was either Jacked or Metal, one of their like syndicated programs that they would do before Monday Night Raw and stuff. And you wrestled Crash Holly. What was that like? How did that come about?
It was the third time I had been called.
Okay.
For the first time I got scratched, and then I think the second time I wrestled Joey Legend, and then the third was Crash Holly. And Crash was another guy. I tell this story too. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met. He gave me a lot in the match and let me do a lot of stuff. And it was supposed to be more or less be a squash match for the syndicated shows. And some people asked him why he gave me so much. And it was like, because I don't know if he's going to be The Rock next year. You never know. Right. So now he'll remember me. And if he can do me a favor, he'll do me a favor. And that's just one of those things. And and that's another thing that's always stuck with me, is learning that from him. And, now that he's gone, I always make sure I mention that story, because of the fact that there's a lot of guys that are selfish. Wrestling can be kind of an ego-driven, narcissistic kind of thing. There are those guys out there, but I know it's changed a lot over the last 20 years.
Mhm.
But there weren't guys like him. There weren't a lot of guys like him back then. There were a lot of guys that just wanted to hold on to their spot.
Yeah.
And he was another one that was willing to do me a favor. So hats off to him. I appreciated it.
Very cool. So kind of talking about your experiences working with the WWF at the time, when you show up as an extra, what is a typical day like for you when you're going there to be an extra?
A normal day, you just show up and go into catering, eat, or check in, go into catering, eat, find Tony Gurria or Kevin Kelly or somebody, and we'll point you in the right direction of where you got to go. And if you're going to be doing anything, if they got anything planned for you. Like the first time I was supposed to do it, I think I was supposed to work. Chad Coyer was supposed to work Taz, and Kevin put the squash on that. So then Dean Malenko put a squash on that. They had me with Taz, and Kevin said no to that, because at the time they were a little weary on Taz at the time, unfortunately. So they didn't want him just manhandling one of the young kids, and especially like Collier came out of Dean Malenko's school, and Kevin was just protecting me, make sure he didn't want me to get squashed really bad. I can't remember who I was supposed to work, and then it got scratched. But more or less, you just kind of, if they tell you got to do something. Back then, it was you went down to the ring, found the person you're supposed to work with, you talked things out, and then you just sat and relaxed until it was time to go. And after you were done, grabbed a crate, sat down, and watched the rest of the show. It wasn't a lot of tryout matches and stuff like that back then. You came in and you did what they wanted you to do, and that was it. Like there was one time when the NWO came, and they were here in Chicago, and they smashed the ambulance with a semi-truck.
Yes, I remember that.
I was one of the paramedics.
Really? Wow.
I was one of the paramedics that we loaded the rock into the ambulance, drove up the ramp, and then afterwards, I was one of the guys that jumped out of the ambulance right as Scott Hall started smashing the windows and stuff before they smashed it with the truck. So, in those situations, like, well, we need you to do this. So go to the wardrobe, get the paramedic's uniform, get the pants, get the shirt, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Give me a jacket, everything, a hat, and sent me on my way until it was time to go. And then you did all the pre-tapes for the stuff that they needed before, and then the live shots that they needed.
Wow.
So,
and this was the same Raw where they announced Hogan versus Rock, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the one they spray painted the Rock, and then they smashed the ambulance.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go on Peacock now and watch that and look for you, so...
This is Tim Storm, former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. You're listening to Whaddya Say with DDJ. If you love professional wrestling, this is where you need to get your information. Don't miss this.
So up to when and now when you started wrestling, when you had your first match in November of 2019, what company was it for?
ACW, Acme Wrestling.
Okay, and now was that basically where you were wrestling primarily until the pandemic hit?
Kind of. That's the guys we train with, and they run shows out of the boxing club, or there's a couple elementaries in the area that they'll run shows out of too. And then actually just kind of through Roach, it got me onto a couple other different shows, kind of in the South Bend, Mishawaka area, and then just kind of ball's been rolling from there.
Great. So, so up into basically from the time you started to when the pandemic hit, which we're talking maybe roughly about 4 months, how many matches did you have?
I think I had like 3 or 4. Then everything kind of shut down. I didn't do anything for about 3 months. And then some places start to open up a little bit. They're according to kind of their area and the counties and stuff like that. They had a little different regulations. Did a couple just live stream shows, no audience shows, that kind of thing. But yeah, 3-4 matches. Had about 3 months off, and then was right back at it and just kind of wrestled all through the pandemic.
Nice. So having listening to what you just said there, so you've obviously wrestled in front of nobody, no crowd, and now that things are opening up, and like in June you wrestled in front of a crowd. How vital, because this was probably the one thing myself have having watched professional wrestling for over 30 years that really took from this pandemic is how vital the crowd, their role is in the overall presentation of pro wrestling. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on that. Like, obviously having been on both sides, where you've wrestled in front of zero crowd and, wrestling in front of, a crowd such as, back in June for CCW, how different is it for you to, when you're wrestling in front of 0 people versus a crowd?
It's different for sure, especially with how I come out. I come out screaming and yelling, high energy. Like I said, it's a party anytime I get out there and get into the ring. So having those fans behind me cheering for me when I get my chug chants going and they start chugging along,
yes,
it just amplifies me. It makes everything what I do. I want to make sure it's that much more perfect for them. And so not having that crowd, it's a little rough. I still brought the energy, still brought the high tempo, but, not hearing those chip chants or the chuck chants when I'm kind of down a little bit was a little different, a little weird. But, we got through it.
Right. And you talk about wrestling in front of a crowd, and one of the things I kind of want to get into a little bit is you brought quite the cheering section with you to the CCW show. In fact, I literally was sitting next to them, and everybody there was like really cool. The little girls you had sitting there with you and stuff had me and my friends laughing and stuff like that. So who all did you bring with you to the show? Because you had probably the biggest fan base out of anybody there.
So my parents were there, my brother, and he brought my nieces with. One of my other nieces was there, another brother of mine. My wife and my stepdaughter were there. My stepdaughter's dad was there as well. Then I had some buddies that just kind of, hey, we got tickets, we're coming. So I had a couple buddies kind of sprinkled throughout the crowd too. So yeah, it was definitely a good time.
And taking it, it's so nice to hear that, you had your, brothers and, and family, your parents and everything like that. And what does it mean to you to have the support of like your family and your friends as you do this? Because, some of the guys I've had on in the past really, when they got into this, really didn't have the same kind of reception from their family and friends that you had. It seems like you got when you got into it. So what does it mean to you to have the support of, most importantly, your parents, but obviously, your wife, your brothers, your nieces and all that? What does the support of family and friends mean to you?
It's been absolutely awesome. That my wife at the very least is at about just every one of my shows. With her being pregnant right now, it's a little tough sometimes, but she still shows up. She helps with my merch. My parents, my parents can make it. They make it. Actually just did a show recently in Niles, Michigan. My brother drove all the way out there for that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I have 7 other siblings. So between all of them, they're constantly showing up for shows. I've done some stuff down closer to Indianapolis, and my sister lives down there. So she's brought, my brother-in-law and her nieces and stuff to it too. So it's been awesome to, kind of look out in the crowd and always see a little chip section at the very least. And then like at CCW or at a little bit of a bigger one, it just makes me that more energetic and that much more to want to make sure I'm doing what I can do at the best of my level.
That's awesome. I had the pleasure of talking with your wife where you're selling your merch, because I was wanting to get a shirt. And again, I think I talked with you. For those of you who weren't at the show and are listening to this, I did not buy a Chip Walker shirt only because he did not have any in my size. So I'm still holding you to that. I'm still holding you to that and stuff. But your wife was a very nice woman and stuff. I enjoyed talking with her and stuff. And congratulations on the upcoming Bundle of Joy. If you don't mind me asking, when's the baby due?
End of August.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
So you're almost there. Are you so in end of August, we'll kind of just do a little bit of foreshadowing. Will you be at the CCW show in August?
That's the plan. So as long as because the baby's supposed to be due the following weekend. So as long as he stays in there, I'll be at CCW for sure.
Sweet. And that so once you so let me ask you this. What when the pandemic hit and you basically, weren't wrestling or you were going, like you said, 3 months in between shows, what were you doing in the meantime?
Just trying to work out, do what I can. Kind of took that time, studied a lot of like older matches, stuff from 80s, like New Japan, things like that. Just kind of a lot of Gary Albright videos. Thanks to John on that one too. He sent me a lot of Gary Albright stuff to watch, and then it just put me down. Put me in a loophole, so
when it comes to looking for matches or recommendations, and anybody that's friends with that's listening to this, that's friends with John Bullard on Facebook, if you want some recommendations for like a particular wrestler, or like if you want, John's an amazing resource. He's recommended some really good stuff to me in the past. So
yeah, he's got a wealth of knowledge and quite a collection of matches for anyone to watch if they're interested. So yeah,
very, very cool. So actually, so when so you mentioned Gary Albright, what were in watching old matches from the 80s and stuff, what were some of the matches that I'll ask you this. What would you say if you had to rate maybe your top 1, 2, or just your top favorite matches of all time? What would they be and why?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I'd have to put Shawn and Razor up there, just because I like the ladder match. I remember watching that as a kid and just being blown away, and kind of just watching that and going.
Yeah, you're talking about the one from WrestleMania 10, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because a lot of people may not realize they actually had a second ladder match as well too. So
WrestleMania 10 there. Just kind of the story they told and everything, even from just their entrances, all the way through the match. It was just, it's one of those ones that stuck out all in my memory, and something I just like to watch for fun sometimes.
Yeah.
I watched Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar quite a bit. I feel like any match with them was always good.
Yes.
Just the technical style. I find myself going back to a lot of Dean Malenko stuff. Maybe not necessarily a particular match there, but him with Eddie or something, or maybe Rey Mysterio. Just the stuff that they could do in the chain wrestling aspect of the thing was always kind of cool to see. And then my trainer Roach, he recommends Quackenbush quite a bit, so I watch some of his stuff too, and just kind of the things they do and the chaining he can do with certain people. So I don't know if it's necessarily particular matches as it is just people and their styles and kind of how they work and operate.
Wrestling fans, Steve Aaron here, one half the commentary team of Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, also the general manager of Chicago Style Wrestling, and you are listening to What Do You Say with DDJ.
All right, thanks to Jace, thanks to Romeo, thanks to Silas, thanks to Vic, and thanks to Chip for spending time with me. I hope you enjoyed look back at some of my interviews with these guys, and big episode next week as we officially begin year 2 of What Do You Say with DDJ. Be a new logo, a little bit of a new look, and be on the lookout for some other fun stuff from yours truly here in the next coming weeks. Just recently announced on a recent episode of my good friend's podcast, Such Good Shoot, that I will be starting up a new show with a couple of my friends. One is a former co-host of mine on my old podcast, The Junkyard. That would be Javon Menacho. And joining us will be the premier Joey K. So be on the lookout for that. That should be coming up here in a couple weeks. We may drop a teaser here in a little bit, but definitely looking forward to bringing you a little bit of fun. You'll hear more about the new show here coming up in the next few days. Well, that's all the time I have this week. Before I go, actually, don't forget to go to wrestlingwithjohners.com to and find my page there to access all the old episodes of What Do You Say with DDJ, both on audio as well as YouTube. And be sure to check out some of the other great podcasts on the Wrestling with Johners Podcasting Network. We got Toilet Side Wrestling Talk, Such Good Shoot, as well as Scumbags of Wrestling. And we've got the Johners podcast hosted by John Scott, who's getting ready to drop his 200th episode here in the near future. Plenty more. And be sure to go to my Teespring store to grab a t-shirt. That's all the time I got. I will see you next week for the kickoff of What Do You Say with DDJ, year number 2. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Later.